I am Curran Bhatia, joined by Tavoris Cloud, former light heavyweight champion. So Tavoris, of course, we know what's going on in the world right now with the global pandemic. So the first question is, how are you doing? How are you holding up? Where are you? And how is everything going?
Oh, I'm doing good. Corona shut everything down. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. Uh, I'm doing pretty good. We just quarantine, stay to ourselves, eat healthy, and we doing all right. Hopefully, it's over soon.
And we haven't seen you in the ring since 2014, right? But I've been following your Instagram, following your social media. So it looks like you've been training for a comeback. So is that the plan? Do you want to get back in the ring? And when are you thinking that's going to be?
Most definitely, I want to come back, and every time I do it, it is always something that gets in the way. But I'll be back in a few months. I'll be back in a few months. Probably when everything slows down with this quarantine and stuff like that, I'll be back.
And let me ask you this though, because like we said, 2014, September of 2014 was the last time we saw you in there. So what did you decide that you wanted to retire, take some time off, or what was going on that we haven't seen you in the ring for about 5 years?
Right. I wanted to take some time off. I never said retire or just completely quit, but I took three losses in a row, so I figured that it is time to sit down and rethink the game plan, things like that. But I'll be back. I'll be back this year. Just some other reasons that I couldn't be in there that I really don't want to talk about. But I'll be back. Uh, I'm not gonna give no definite dates, but I will be back this year, guaranteed.
Well, there you go. We have the guarantee. Now, you're 38 years old now. And is that playing a part in what you're thinking? Obviously, Father Time is undefeated. We know this. But at the same time, fighters have definitely had success in boxing. Later into years, we look at Bernard Hopkins, Manny Pacquiao on it, Floyd Mayweather. I mean, there's tons of fighters who have had success on the other side of 35. What do you feel about your age right now? Is that going to play a factor in your comeback?
Uh yeah, it will. I'll be doing things a lot smarter. But I don't feel old. I took care of myself. I've been fighting my whole life. Training and things like that. Um, it's going to be better for me. It's going to be better for me, and I had the even with my fighting style, I had the opportunity to go back and study myself. Study myself and make myself better. Work on a lot of weaknesses that I had as a fighter. Um, I look at other fighters as well. Just studying other fighters and seeing the mistakes they make in business and inside of the ring. I'm just a more well-rounded person now and fighter. I understand it. It's like uh, everything is clear to me now. Sometimes you need the lights, camera, and action to stop. Well, you need to fall from grace to find yourself again, and I definitely did that.
Absolutely. No, we can hear the maturity in your voice. You have the experience. Your debut was in 2004, 27 pro fights. So obviously the experience is there. So in terms of your comeback, are there any specific names that you want to fight? I mean, towards the end of your last few fights, you fought really big names: Hopkins, Beterbiev, Stevenson. These heard of these names. These are champions. Do you want to go in there and try to get a title fight? Do you want a couple tune-up fight? What would be the game plan to get back in there?
Well, well, as for right now, boxing is just fun for me, and the first thing I want to do is get the rust off, and however long it take to get the rust off, when I feel ready, when I have my fluidity back, then I'll keep stepping it up. But it's all about having fun with me now. Hitting and not getting hit. I've been to the top. And I understand that it's what you make it, and I want to make it into something more enjoyable than just training and fighting. You gotta have fun with it. If you ain't having fun, then it ain't fun.
And I just wanted to and I'm definitely looking forward to your comeback. You were always an exciting fighter. I wanted to look back a little bit on your career, some of the great moments that you've had. You turned pro in 2004, like we said. You won the world title in 2009. In 2010, 2011, you were definitely a top fighter in the light heavyweight division. When you look back on what you achieved at that time, I mean, how did it feel at that time? Did you feel like you were invincible on top of the world? You had a knockout streak. You were beating everybody. So was that a good time when you look back?
It was a good time, but I never felt I was always my own worst critic. I always felt like I could get better and do better. I was always pushing myself. It was a lot of infighting going on with my training camps and the way I trained and stuff like that. But I always came to the fight in great shape. Um, uh, I kind of lost track of the question.
So, well, no, just picking it up there because I remember, I was in St. Louis. This was August of 2010. I remember you were taking on Glenn Johnson, and you were being introduced to that HBO audience, and there was an outdoor weigh-in, and you were flexing, and you got the job done, and continued to have success. One thing that you had was you were with Don King Promotions, right? What was that experience like? And if you had to go back, would you have signed with Don King? Would you have looked elsewhere? What was that like?
If I had to go back, I definitely wouldn't sign with Don King. But I have a lot of respect for Don King. I don't want to say anything bad about him, but Don King, he is a older promoter. I think he's almost in his 90s now, if not 90s, and that just him being able to promote the fights. He was slowing down, and it didn't happen, and it was a lot of bad blood, bad business deals from the past that I had nothing to do with, all over everywhere in the sport of boxing. So that kind of slowed me down. His what I didn't think about is that his enemies will become my enemies, and I know that now because any other undefeated fighter who is power puncher, not ducking anybody, they should have had a lot more opportunities, and but I take it as a lesson, not a loss.
And of course, Don King, it's been well documented, and I don't want you to get into any speculation or anything. The only other question about that was specifically for you. Obviously, you said he was older, so it's harder to maybe get some of the fights that you wanted. Were there any promises made that didn't happen? Any purses that were short? Anything that just didn't seem right during that time?
I mean, Don King, it was always a hard bargain. You have to negotiate with him to get your money. I always got what I was supposed to get, as far as what I negotiated on the contract, but it was you would have problems if you tried to move past that initial amount that you agreed upon. And as you get more tighter defenses, as you win more fights, of course you want money, but they kind of wanted me to stay at what I agreed upon initially.
And I wanted to ask you about a couple of fights that you had. You beat Glenn Johnson, like we talked about, knocked out Yusuf Mack. You were a champion. You defended your belt. And then you took on Gabriel Campillo, and you knocked him down twice in the first round. It seemed like watching on TV, though, he was able to at least get up and come back. He had a tough style. I believe he was a southpaw, and he had a tough style to fight. Was that a tough fight? And obviously afterwards, some people felt like it was controversial. What did you think? Did you think you won that fight decisively?
Right. It was a controversial fight. You know, how all of it started. You know, my story on it is that I was training to fight Zoltz Erdy in Anaheim, California, I believe. So, you know, Campillo style is totally different from Zoltz Erdy. Zoltz Erdy is a short guy, right-handed fighter, European fighter, and Campillo, they, you know, he got thrown in there maybe like 6 or 7 weeks, you know, and we took off, and I had to come back in camp. So, you know, I just think Campillo, he had a good night that night, but you know, I always been willing to rematch him, but you know, it happens, man. It happens.
And another fight I wanted to ask you about, and I appreciate your honesty there talking about Campillo. Another fight I wanted to ask you about, I was there, it was in March of 2013, and you got to fight the legend Bernard Hopkins. At the time, I believe you were 31 years old, he was 48. But he was able to do what he wanted in there. He won that fight. It was obviously a tough fight. Did you underestimate him a little bit, you know, based on the age difference and things like that?
No, I didn't underestimate Hopkins. I wasn't as prepared as I should have been for that fight. And it was the biggest fight of my career. I actually should not have took that fight, but it was such a big opportunity that I knew that if I didn't take that fight, the opportunity would never come again. You know, because I knew Bernard Hopkins, he was on his way out. He was trying to fight everybody he could fight before he retired. And I knew, well, you know, once my name was called, once I got a phone call, that if I didn't take the fight, I would never get that opportunity again. So even though I was ill prepared, I still took the fight. So, and you know, whatever come from it, you know, I have to deal with it. And I did lose my title. So, you know, I deal with it. But you know, we win and we lose. You know, you win some, you lose some, you know, but you keep moving.
Absolutely, and you got right back in there against Stevenson and then Arthur Beterbiev. Now, at the time, Beterbiev was only 5-0, but we've seen what he's become since then. He's obviously a really tough guy. He took out a Gvozdyk in the last fight, which was just a crazy brawl. With those two fights, any regrets or anything you would have done differently in those fights? The last two fights so far of your career, Stevenson and Beterbiev?
Train harder, be more prepared mentally, you know. That's it. Just more prepared mentally, and you know, the more you fight as a fighter, the more you learn about yourself. You know, and it's some things about yourself that a lot of people don't know right now. You know, until you put in certain situations. But I know a lot about myself, and when I do come back, when I get back to it, I'll use it to my advantage. You know. But they were all good fighters. I mean, anybody could have lost to those fighters. And I'm just glad I was able to walk out of the ring and still have my health and strength. And, you know, I could still make another run at it.
Absolutely, and that's what matters at the end of the day, of course. We know that you're making your comeback, like you said. Anything that you plan to do post-career once you finally hang up the gloves? Do you want to become a full-time trainer? Do you want to commentate on the sport? What would be kind of your second act after you do finally retire?
I was thinking about opening up a gym, and you know, I just want to make sure that I have time to invest in the gym when I do open it, and that I'm not actually always training for fights myself, you know, and you know, help some of the local guys out, you know, whether it's in the Tallahassee or Quincy area or wherever I'm staying at that time.
Absolutely. And so just to close it out, we're all going to be looking forward to your comeback. Any final words to the fans of yours that may be listening, or also, any words of encouragement? Obviously, everyone right now is going through a tough time with everything going on. So any final words?
What's the saying? Tough times don't last. Tough people do. Keep your head up.
Absolutely. Well said. Tavoris Cloud, I want to thank you so much for the time. I wish you all the best. Please be safe in Florida. Looking forward to seeing your comeback, and I hope to chat with you again soon.
All right. Thank you.